Senator Patterson to move the motion.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. Today is a tough day for many Australian households, particularly for those with mortgages, because they've received the news of the 13th rate rise on Labor's watch. They've received the news that their mortgage repayments will be going up. And for many Australian families, this is not the news they were promised. This is not the news they were expecting, because they've heard our Prime Minister and our Treasurer, Mr Chalmers, tell them that the worst is behind us, that better times are ahead, that they've slayed the inflation dragon and they've got it under control. But nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is the average Australian household is $21,000 a year worse off than they were when it comes to mortgage repayments than when Labor comes to office. That is, someone with an average loan of $600,000 is paying $21,000 more a year on their repayments because of interest rate rises that have happened on this government's watch. Now, this government has presided over 3 interest rate reductions, and when that happened, Jim Chalmers was very quick to take credit. He was very quick to say it was a result of the government's economic management that rates were coming down. But now that rates are rising again, he's even quicker to say that he bears no responsibility, that the Albanese government bears no blame and that others are to blame, that it's international factors that are responsible for rising inflation. The problem with that story is that it's not true. In fact, Australia has some of the highest inflation among advanced economies. We're higher than the United States, than the United Kingdom, than Canada, than Japan, than Germany and many others. And while their rates are falling, our rates are rising, and it is very clear why. You can ask any economist what the effect of Labor's reckless spending is. They will tell you that with spending at a 40-year high outside a recession as a proportion of the economy, that is driving upward pressure on inflation, and that is leading directly to interest rates increasing today. Take, for example, the Judo Bank Chief Economic Advisor Warren Hogan, who said, "But if the governments of Australia do nothing, I think the RBA is going to have to take the cash rate above where it was a year ago, above 4.35, and most likely towards 5, and put this economy at risk of recession. They will have to do that, though, if the government of Australia will not act." Take the AMP Deputy Chief Economist Diana Messina, who said, quote, "It appears that directly the government has been adding to inflation in recent years, as you would expect in an environment of public spending lifting to a record high." Or AMP's Chief Economist Shane Oliver, who said last week, "A lot of the factors driving inflation relate to government spending." Even Alex Joyner, the Chief Economist of IFM Investors, which is of course a vehicle of the industry superannuation industry, has said, and I quote, "We already have fiscal policy getting looser, but it could become even looser than we expect. The fiscal guardrails have come off." Or HSBC Chief Economist Paul Bloxham, who said yesterday, "The primary driver of the pickup inflation is not strong demand. To the extent that demand is playing much of a role, it's that public demand growth has been strong due to government spending." These are the expert opinions that Jim Chalmers would like to dismiss as partisan. But I don't think these economists are partisan, nor are economists at the RBA, who have made many similar observations in recent months. Of course, is the RBA Governor herself, who acknowledged to me in Senate estimates recently that all else being equal, if government spending is rising, that drives up pressure on inflation and therefore interest rates. When it comes to this government's wasteful spending, sometimes it's the small things that tell the story and sometimes it's the big things. We learnt recently that the government spent $1.6 million renovating a party room for their Greens partners here in Parliament House. That is one room in Parliament House and $1.6 million to tune it up to the circumstances that the Greens expect. Now, when you can build a brand new home, a perfectly nice family home, for around $400,000 to $500,000, it seems extraordinary to me that Labor thinks that $1.6 million is good value for taxpayers' money. Or you could take the CSIRO, which was recently exposed having spent $500,000 on manicured lawns and rented pot plants. This is an agency that employs botanists in-house that could probably manage to water a plant if required. Or the big one, like the EV tax uptake, which is supposed to cost $90 million this financial year, but has blown out 15 times to $1.35 billion. The truth is, when Labor spend, you pay. And this is a government that's failed to control its spending, and that's why rates have risen today, and that's why you will pay.